everyone, and welcome back to the Stitch Sessions. If you are new here, I'm Karen, and I love all things to do with crafting with crochet. And if you're not new here, welcome back. I'm always happy to hang out with my crochet friends. So in this week's tutorial, as you can see, we are going to create this really sweet baby beanie. Now, this beanie was made for a size 3 to 6 months. If you want to create one that's a little smaller or a little larger, I do have a hat sizing chart on the Crochet Crafty website. That's the website you can reach me at. I will leave a link for it in the description box down below. So it's just a matter of knowing when to stop increasing your crown and continue down. Pretty straightforward. So if you're used to crocheting circles, this will be a fantastic project for you. So we start from the top and work our way down, and then we just create this sweet little puff stitch flower as a little adornment. And I have a really fun fur pom-pom on top. And what I love about these pom-poms, boop, they come off really nice and easy. So you can throw the hat in the wash and the pom-pom doesn't get wrecked. I used the same type of pom-pom in the beanie project that I did last year, the end of last year. I can't remember the name of it now. I think it's like Super Easy Faux Pom Beanie, and I'll leave a link for that in the description box down below if you're interested, because that hat is worked slightly different than this one. In any case, this just snaps back on when you're ready to go, and I just think it came out super sweet. And if you recall, I actually made some mittens to go with it. And this tutorial is already live as well, and I'll leave a link for that in the description box down below. So if you want to create a hat to match with your mittens, then this is the project for you. So let's just get right into it. Let's talk about our materials that we're going to need to create our sweet baby beanie. Okay, so for this hat, I actually used the Bernat Premium yarn, and I've got some more of it here. And in case you're wondering, the color I used here is, I think it's called Lilac Purple or just Lilac. So it's like a lavender lilac color, which is really cute. And I also used the Bernat Premium for the pink, and I think it's just simply called Pink. So for this hat, I am going to be using Bernat Premium as well. It's a medium 4-weight yarn. And the colors I'm going to use for this hat are baby aqua and teal. Okay, now these come in a good skein. Let me see if I can find that. So they come in 189 grams, which contain 160 yards or 329 meters. So you've got quite a bit of yarn here. You will not need this whole thing. I actually had a little bit left over from another project with the lilac, and I would say I probably had a third of the yarn left over, and I created this full hat, including the center for my little flower here. So you're probably going to use up a third of these. As you can see, I've got some left here from another project. And so what I'm going to do is I am actually going to make this hat in the baby aqua, and then I'm going to make my flower out of the teal. And for this one, I don't have a fur pom-pom, so I am going to make my own pom-pom, which I may actually very well do in the darker color. So stay tuned for that. So it is a medium 4-weight yarn, and it is 100% acrylic. So anytime you're creating outdoor projects like a hat that you'd wear outside, I always kind of take into consideration, how would I wash this? And how easy is it to wash? So with baby stuff, you know, their clothing gets thrown in the wash quite often. So with acrylic, you always want to wash in gentle, and I like to lay flat even when they do say tumble dry low. Okay, so there's that. So the hook size I'm using for this project is actually a 5.5 millimeter hook, which is also known as an I or a size 9. They do recommend a size 5, but I just want my stitches to sit just a little bit more relaxed. So if you're a tight crocheter, I would actually recommend you go up to a size 6, just so that your hat has a little bit of give and relaxed stitching. Okay, and then you're also going to need, as always, a handy pair of scissors and a yarn needle to sew in any of your ends at the end. So let's get started on our beanie. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to begin by taking my main color here, and we're going to start with a cinch circle. And I'm going to take my hook, so I created a loop. I'm going to take my hook, pull the yarn through. It's like a slip knot, but we're not going to resolve it. And then I'm going to chain 1. Now we're using the half double crochet stitch for this project. And so I'm going to chain an additional 1. And then I'm going to work into the ring and I'm going to place a half double crochet stitch. Just like that. And then I'm going to continue to place an additional 7 half double crochets. So that chain 2 we did at the beginning is not going to count as anything for this project. And this is my 8th one here. So you've got something that's fanning out. And now what you want to do is you want to take your little tail there and you want to pull on it so it cinches your circle nice and tight. Whoops, and don't be afraid to really give it a little pull. And then what you want to do is you want to close off your round. So you want to find the top of that very first half double crochet. So if you're not sure, just count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of that stitch, and round 1 is complete. Okay, so now we're going to go on to round number 2. Now if you've referenced the hat sizing chart, you will know that because I'm working on a hat for a baby 3 to 6 months, that we need our crown width, that's the diameter that goes across the top of the head, to be approximately 5 inches and a quarter. Okay, so we're going to continue to increase here, continue to do rounds until we get that diameter. So we're going to start off by chaining 2, and this chain 2 will not count as anything. And now we're going to work into the very next stitch, and we are going to place 2 half double crochets. But what's different is that we are going to work into the back loops only. So we slip stitched into here. So I'm going to go into the next stitch, which is right there. And you're going to go in through the top. So instead of going underneath like that through both loops, you're going to find the back loop only. And that's where you're going to pull your loop up and half double crochet. And we are going to place 2 of those. So we're going to go back into that same stitch and half double crochet. So that is an increase stitch, and we are going to increase into every stitch. So we had 8 stitches at the end of round 1. And if we put 2 into each stitch at the end of round 2, we're going to have 16 stitches. So again, I will find the next stitch and I'm going to work into the back loops only. So I'm not going to go under here. I'm going to go in through the top, place a half double crochet, and then go back into that same spot right there and half double crochet. And you're going to do that all the way around. Okay, and I'm coming up to my last stitch here. Now we chained 2 out of there, but the chain 2 did not count as anything. So we're going to place our last 2 stitches into the back loops only of that stitch. So there's 1 and there's 2. And as always, if you're unsure, just count backwards and make sure that you have 16 stitches. So you can see there's a little ridge being formed there, and that's the effect that we are creating for this beanie. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to find the top of the very first half double crochet you created, and you're going to slip stitch to join. However, from here on out, we're going to join our yarns in a different fashion. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to just pull that loop up a little bit, take out our hook, and we're going to go into that first stitch, but we're going to insert the hook from behind. This is a little trick I learned to keep your seams pretty straight. So we're going to insert through both of those loops there. And then you kind of just pick up that loop you left, put it back on the hook, and then feed it through. Just like that. So instead of inserting from the front and grabbing this piece, we are just helping to feed the working yarn through the front. And as you work subsequent rounds, you'll see how the seam really blends in nicely. Okay, so that's the end of round number 2. We have 16 stitches. So we're going to move on to round number 3. We're still increasing here. So we're going to chain 1 and 2. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to work right back into that same stitch there. So that's where we kind of fed that loop through. So we're going to insert our hook into the back loop right there. And we're going to place 2 half double crochets. So there's 1 and there is 2. But now into the next stitch, we're only going to place 1 half double crochet. So that is the pattern for round number 3, is we're going to place 2 half double crochets into one stitch and then 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, all the way around. So at the end of round number 3, you should now have 24 stitches in total. And this is my last stitch here, which is my 24th stitch. Okay, so you can see those ridges are now coming through. And again, I'm going to take my hook out. I'm going to go into the very first stitch I created, the full stitch I created. I'm going to come in through the back like that. And then I'm going to bring this loop over and feed it through, just like that. So you can see it's allowing the ridges to just go right to the end. So the seam will not be as noticeable. So we're going to go on to round number 4. So I'm going to chain 1 and 2. We're still going to increase. Now for my size, I increased up until the 5th round. So in round number 2, I did 2 stitches into each stitch. In round number 3, I did 2 stitches into every other stitch. And now round number 4, we're going to do 2 regular stitches first before we do an increase. So here we're going to insert our hook into the back loops still and half double crochet. So there's 1, and then I'll go into the next one. There's 2, and then I'm going to do my increase. So there's 1 and 2. Okay, so and then I do 2 individual ones. I do 1, and then I do 2 in the next, and then I do my increase here. So that is the pattern for round number 4. So I'm going to do 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2 all the way around. At the end of round number 4, you should have 32 stitches. Once you get to round number 5, you are going to do 3 stitches and then an increase. So you will go 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, all the way around. At the end of round 5, you will then have 40 stitches. So I'm going to leave you here to finish off round number 4 and go on to round number 5, because I think you have the gist of the pattern. And once you complete round number 5, you should have approximately 5 to 5¼ inches, maybe 5½ inches in diameter. Once you get there, then I'll take you through the rest of the body of your beanie. So you're going to go until you finish 6 rounds. And then round number 6 will have 4 individual half double crochets before you hit your next increase. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. Okay, so once you've done your 6 rounds, I will meet up with you then. And at the end of your 6th round, you should have 48 stitches. Okay, so I've completed my 6 rounds. And so you can see how the ridges are coming through very nicely. And if I just take my measuring tape here, I just reconfirm. Yep, I have 5 inches. And if you're in metric, that is about 12.75 centimeters. So that is perfect for my crown size. And so now I'm going to build the body of my hat. So if I take this hat here, now once we've gotten through the crown, we're now going to build the rest of the body. So based on my sizing chart, I know for a baby of this age, I want a hat height of 6 inches. So I'm just going to reconfirm that. So 6 inches, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep building up my body until I get to about 5 inches, because then we're going to work a slightly different stitch to create our brim there. So what we're going to do now for round number 7 is we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and then we're going to go back into that first stitch and half double crochet, and there are no increases now for this row and subsequent rows, or rounds I should say. So we're simply just going to place 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way around, and then you'll slip stitch to join and continue on. So nice and straightforward. So you are going to continue doing that until you get to round 16. So you've done 6 rounds of your increases, and now you're going to do an additional, until you get to round 15. So we're going to do an additional 9 rounds, and then we're going to do our brim. So really straightforward now, 1 stitch into each all the way around, and you're going to do this until you complete round 15. Okay, so I have completed 15 rounds. So now you can really see it looks like a hat. So you can see where the seam is lightly kind of showing, but it's staying a lot straighter than it would have with the typical slip stitch method. So I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, so just to make sure, I just got my little measuring tape here, and there we go. Just a little over 5 inches, which is perfect because that's going to give me just under an inch to create my brim. And again, that's going to be about 13 centimeters. So now we're going to create our brim. So we're going to move on to round number 16. And so we're going to chain 1. And we're going to use single crochet stitches now for our brim. So we're going to go back into the very first stitch there and single crochet. Now into round 16, we are going to go into the back loops only again, just for this round. So we're going to single crochet, and we're going to single crochet 1 stitch into every stitch all the way around. Okay, so I'm at the end of round 16, and I'm just going to do my slip stitch method, just like that. So it kind of looks like every other round so far. The difference is these stitches are more shallow than the half double crochets. So we're now going to proceed to just repeat this round for another 3 rounds. So we're going to do this for round 17, 18, and 19. But now we will no longer work into the back loops only. So we're going to chain 1, and we're just going to go into the full stitch there. Okay, so this is all you're going to do to create your brim, and then you're going to get something that looks like this. So you can see it's just slightly different than the half double crochet stitches. And then we're pretty much done the hat, and then all we have to do is add our little flower embellishment and our pom-pom, and we're ready to go. So I will meet up with you once I've completed my 4 rounds of single crochet stitches. Okay, so I've finished my brim, and you can see it's very subtle, and it looks like that. And you can see I've already put my pom-pom on. Now, I already have a tutorial on how to create your own pom-pom. So I will leave a link to that in the description box down below. So you can just reference that video on how to make your own if you choose not to get the the fur one, and I'll also leave a link to where I got this one as well. So you can choose either or. The only thing is if you want to be a little tone on tone, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to find this teal color. However, the wonders of the internet, you just never know. So there you go. So we've got that. I've sewn it in. So you can see here, I just fed it through the center there and I sewed it back and forth a few times. I actually just want to sew in these tiny little ends there. And you've got a nice little pom-pom at the top. And if you wanted to, you could just leave your sweet little beanie as is. But I do want to add this cute little flower detail here. So that's what we're going to do next. And then your beanie will be complete. Isn't that a cute little set? Okay, so here we go. Okay, so I'm going to start with my hat color for the center of my flower. And I'm going to also start with a cinch circle. I'm going to insert my hook and pull up a loop and chain one. Okay. And then I'm going to go back into the circle and I'm going to place a single crochet stitch. So I'm going to go back in, pull up a loop, and single crochet. And I'm going to proceed to single crochet 6 times in total into the center of our ring. And here is the 6th one. So this is going to be the center of our little flower. So we're now going to take the tail, pull it shut. So it's going to create a very small, very tight circle there. So you're going to go into the top of the first single crochet and you're going to slip stitch to join your round. Can be a little tight, that first stitch. There we go. And there you have it. That is going to be the center of our little flower. So now we're just going to snip our yarn. Just like that. You don't need the tail to be very long. Okay, so you're going to cinch this nice and tight. That's now the center of our flower. Now, if you want to, you can sew in these ends now, or you can leave it to the end. It's totally up to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my accent color now to create the petals of my flower. Okay, so I'm bringing in my teal color, and I'm choosing the teal because I want it to kind of go with the pom-pom. So it just creates a nice little accent there. And so I just went ahead and sewed in all the ends and snipped off my yarn just so that it's not confusing for the tutorial. So you can see exactly where I'm going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually insert my hook in any of these stitches here. Just like that. And I'm going to pull my yarn through. A lot of times you'll see me place a slip knot on my hook first. For certain projects, I do not do that. Because this is such a small area, I just didn't want to have to deal with the knot of the slip stitch getting in the way. So once you do that, you're just going to chain 3. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So this is going to give us a little bit of height here for our petal. And we're now going to do a cluster stitch. So we are going to start as if we're going to place a double crochet back into that same stitch. So you're going to yarn over, insert into that stitch, pull up a loop. So you have 3 loops on the hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops like you're going to do a regular double crochet. We are now not going to finish that double crochet because we are going to go and create another one. So you yarn over, go back into that same stitch, pull up a loop, and pull through the first 2 loops only. So now you have 2 double crochets that are unresolved. You're going to do that one more time, yarn over, insert back into that same stitch, pull up a loop, trying to work over that tail there, and then pull through the first 2 loops only. So you now have 4 loops on your hook and 3 unresolved double crochet stitches. Now you're going to yarn over and you're going to pull through all 4 of those loops. So see how it clusters them all together? That's why we call it a cluster stitch. You're then going to chain 1 and we're going to do a little picot effect. So you're going to now take your hook and insert it back into the first loop here of our stitch. And sometimes I'll pick up 2 of these loops. And then I'll pull through and slip stitch. And that just gives it a little bit more of a peaked look, okay, which you'll be able to tell in a moment. So you can see a little bit of it there now. Then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go back into the same stitch and we're going to slip stitch. And this ends off our very first petal. Just like that, okay? And so then what will happen is you just puff it outwards and there you have our first petal in our flower. And so you're going to repeat that a total of 5 times. And so even though we have 6 stitches here, what happens is this gets really wide. And so it really only makes sense to fit 5 petals there. As you can see, I've done that there. If you can fit 6 and it doesn't look too squished, then by all means go for it. So how do we go on to the next petal? So you've just slip stitched. And I just want to keep that a little bit nice and snug. So now I'm going to go into the stitch right next to it and I'm going to slip stitch into that stitch. So that slip stitch will help establish the fact that I am now working into the next stitch. And then I chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I do another cluster stitch like I did before. Yarn over, insert back into that stitch, pull through 2 only, and then I repeat that. I go in a second time, and then I go in a third time. 4 loops are on the hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through all 4. See how it naturally points up? Then I chain 1. See that chain 1 just helps solidify the point upwards. Then I go back into the top of that stitch and I like to pick up 2 loops. And then I just slip stitch into all of them. Then I chain 3, and the chain 3 helps us anchor the other side of our petal. I go back into the same stitch right there and I slip stitch. And then I just keep repeating that until I get all the way around, okay? Just like that. And that's how you create your flower. So go ahead and do that for all your stitches, and then when you're done, I'll meet you up at the end, but you want to make sure you leave quite a long tail because that's the tail we're going to use to sew in our flower to our hat. Okay guys, so you see what I mean by only being able to fit 5 petals. Even this last one here was getting a little bit kind of squished in there. So that's what the flower looks like initially. So when you look at the one here, you might think it looks a little different, looks a little bit more thinned out in the petals. That's what happens once we sew down around the edges, okay? So I've just slip stitched to join, and now I'm just going to pull that through. So that's my long tail, and I just pull that through nice and tight. And we are now ready to sew our flower onto our hat. So let's do it. Okay, so just to start, I want to make sure that I establish where the back of the hat is. So you can see that faint seam that's coming down the way there. So I want that to be the back. And I generally like my flowers to sit just a little bit off to the left side, just like this one here. And now you can make it a little further down over the brim. Some people like to do that. You can make it a little further up. I like to do a little bit of both, so just kind of having it come slightly down. So I'm just going to take my flower and just kind of think of where I'd like it to go. And I'm pretty happy with that. So it kind of comes down. Oh, I love this colorway now that I see the flower on there. So I'm going to take my yarn needle now and I'm going to feed it through with my yarn, just like that. And so now if you're a little newer, I would recommend maybe taking a couple of safety pins and pinning them down just to keep it in place, but I've done enough of this that I feel pretty good just holding it in place. So, oops, there's a little tail there. So this long tail here, whoops, let me get that out of the way. So the long tail here ends here. So what we want to do is we generally just want to pick up some loops underneath here and then come back and pick up each loop along the side of our petals. Now these are generally going to be your chains, right? So I just come up through and pull it up just like that. And then I go back in through the next chain, and then I want to try and pick up loops on the back. Now, my preference is not to go all the way to the back, so that when you turn the hat inside out, my preference is to not be showing any of the stitches of the opposite color. So I've done a couple of stitches. So when I turn it over, you see that? I don't want the yarn showing through. Now, if you do, it is definitely not the end of the world. And many people are like, who cares? This is on the inside. You're going to be wearing it on your head. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. This is just a little funny thing I like to do. For me, I just feel like it makes it look a little bit more professional and a little bit more finished off. So this is what you're going to do all the way around. So once I've come up, I now want to go into another area here and just pick up another couple loops and then come back up through the front. So you're always going from the back to the front and then from the front to the back. See, just like that. And now I'm getting close to the picot, so I'm going to go in through the front and just pick up a couple of these loops here. Just like that. See, so it's really solidifying, anchoring down each petal. And that's basically what you're going to do all the way around. You're going to dip back down. I'm going to try and weave that tail, that little tail end. And then you trace back up. So you're basically just tracing the petals. And because the cluster stitch tends to puff out or puff backwards, I try to encourage it to puff forward like that. And that's how we end up getting this flower here that looks like, see how raised it is? It's because we really kind of accentuated the puff moving forward. And that's it. Okay, so I'm going to leave you guys to sew in the rest of your flower, weave in your end, and then I'll come back on here and show you my final hat. Okay, guys, and there we have it. The sweet little beanie is done. And of course, two of anything never come out exactly the same. So you can see this looks a little bit more like a star, this one, and this one looks a bit more like a flower. And a lot of times it's just your tension is a little bit tighter or looser depending on the one you make. But I think these came out really, really cute. Now, when you look at these, you may even think, this one came out smaller. It actually did not. Believe it or not, I was able to keep my tension pretty consistent. So if you compare them, you see, they're pretty much the same size. What's making this one look smaller is the pom-pom. Right? So the fur pom-pom tends to give it a little bit more height or the illusion of more height. But they are indeed the same size, and I'm very excited to gift this to my little one. And there you have it. So I hope you found that fun as well as easy. If there's anything in particular that you still have questions on, you guys know you can leave them for me in the comment box down below. And if you prefer to email me directly, feel free to email me at info@crochetcrafty.com. I'm always very happy to answer any questions you may have. And if you've been here before, you know the drill. Make sure you visit me on the website, crochetcrafty.com. That's where you can find all the details regarding the stitch sessions videos, further details, crochet tools like sizing charts. And make sure to sign up for my newsletter. It's absolutely free. And I gift you a free written pattern every month in every edition. Now, if you're looking for more patterns, you can also visit my Etsy shop at Crochet Crafty Canada. And I'm continuously working on trying to get all of my patterns up there. It's taking me a little while, but we're getting there slowly but surely. Thank you so much, guys. I love hanging out with you every week. I hope you continue to find these fun and interesting and challenging, but easy enough that you can tackle. And as well, if you have any requests or suggestions of projects you would like to see me do, please do leave them for me in the comment box down below, and I will definitely add it to my project list. And don't forget, if you're new here and you liked this tutorial and would like to see more like this, make sure to press that subscribe button and click the notification bell so that way you'll be up to date every time I upload a brand new tutorial, which is every Wednesday. I look forward to seeing more of you come along with us on this crochet journey. So guys, have an amazing day as always. Take very good care of yourselves. Happy crocheting, of course. And I will see you guys in next week's session. Bye-bye.